You're listening to Moon Apothecary Radio. This is the Optimysteries, the Optimysteries. And on this program, I investigate an artifact that has been given to me, and I look into other pieces of information connected to that artifact. So typically it's a music artifact, and it will be an album. It could be a tape, has to be a physical artifact. And I receive information from the environment around me to find out more information about the art piece that I'm looking at. So in this case, I have the Blue Öyster Cult, Agents of Fortune. This fell into my hands recently, and it was gifted to me through Max, and I mean, I did pay for it. Ultimately, it wasn't like a free gift, but I received it from Max Francis, who has a music crate out in Brooklyn at the Mini Myrtle Wombat, and I selected it kind of like at random, and I was curious about why this album stood out to me, and I figured it out. So let's go on a journey together to learn about Blue Öyster Cult's Agent of Fortune and find out what type of mystical elements are on this album. What do you know about the Blue Öyster Cult?
That they're from the 70s, and they wrote this song called The Reaper.
Yeah.
And it comes on in bars a lot.
Yeah.
And every time it comes on, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I never get tired of hearing it, but I don't know any of their other songs. That's it. That's all I know.
This is the album that I have currently. As you can see, it's Agents of Fortune, and I did a little bit of research while I was at work at Myrtle Wombat. I'm an employee there, where the crate is, and I started to learn about the album. It was released on May 21st, 1976 by Columbia Records. It is the fourth studio album, and Blue Öyster Cult became a very big concert attraction after the release of Don't Fear the Reaper, which is featured on this album. So I'm curious about the gentleman on the album cover. The cover painting was created by Lynn Curley. The painting depicts a Belgian magician, Surveille Leroy, and I took a photo kind of like imitating him. And I found the cards that are on that image. They're 4 tarot cards. Who was Surveille Leroy? He invented the levitation illusion, Astra the Floating Princess. And those are other individuals that he worked with. Talma was specialized in sleight of hand. Bosco, he played a buffoon character. And he worked until he died in 1953 in Keansburg, New Jersey, which is not that far from New York City, where I'm currently broadcasting. So going back to the original question of like the mystical elements that are on this album, first off, I'm going to present it where I am right now. I'm at my house, and this is the album that I have. There are 4 cards on this side, 4 cards presented on this album, and I did find which cards those are. So I'm going to show those now. And it took me a little while to figure out what they were, because the art on the album, these illustrations are not the same as the very classic tarot cards that people will use when they do a tarot reading. And the cards are, I will show, each individual card later on in the episode to give my analysis as someone who has knowledge about tarot and the meaning behind cards. So first I'm going to roll the D20 that I have beside me, and that's what makes this show so fun for me personally, because I love working with the universe and in a way, I don't get to select what music to listen to. I give that that permission to the universe to select it for me. And usually I find that there's like some synchronicity or something interesting about why I have to listen to that song in particular. It could be because of something that's happening and, like on a bigger scale, like a cultural trend. It could be about the seasons, it could be about my personal life. So, and it could also be for the person who's watching this, like the song could be relevant to that person. So here we go. We're going to do a roll of the die. Here we go. All right. Which song should we listen to from this album? Song number 2. That's a 2. And that song here is True Confessions. We're not going to play the song. We're not going to play the song because of copyright. But I do encourage you as the viewer to check out that song and maybe look at the lyrics as well to find out more about that. But what I really want to talk about is the art. And let's open the cover as well, and the inside and the interior that you can't see. And the back. There are 4 tarot cards depicted on this, and the first card on there is the Death card. The Death card represents transformation and rebirth. The skeleton is kind of like the warrior that's been through so much that he now has lost his flesh. And this card represents the rebirth of a person, kind of like the phoenix rising from the ashes as a concept, because he's been through trials and tribulations, and now he's returned to his town. And interestingly enough, it's like the town itself has kind of been through a lot of stress and ailments. You have people who are sick and dying around him, but are also very happy that he's returned. So it's like a person who's left somewhere and has returned back and has found that things have changed. The place that they're from, that they had left, has changed, has transformed. So not only has the person changed as an individual, but the environment has changed with the passing of time. So what does that mean in relation to the other cards that have been selected for this album cover? Well, the transformation card in relation to the Empress is someone transforming into an individual that is now in a energy of abundance. The Empress card is the second card. That symbolizes abundance, sensuality, feminine spirit, and a lot of growth. So yes, you can see around her, she has a lot of vegetation and she's luxuriating in that environment. So it's like going through a lot and becoming a more abundant person. And with the Emperor card beside the Empress, that is someone who is meeting their more masculine side. So someone who is becoming a leader. The Emperor is the Emperor. It's a person who leads the entire territory that they're in. So in a lot of ways, it's like becoming a bossed up person, like a boss, a big boss, a CEO, type of person who's managing an empire. And then lastly, we have the Sun, and that is abundance, joy, uplift, creative energy. Think about like the sun. So together, these 4 cards represent someone who is going through a transformation to become more of like a balance of masculine and feminine towards their creative abundance and joy. Another reading of it is that it's someone who could be having gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, and now could be meeting someone, their counterpart. Another reading of it, and kind of like birthing a new life. So those are two different ways to read the 4 tarot cards that are on the Blue Öyster Cult album, Agents of Fortune. And that's it for today's live broadcast. I wanted to talk on that and give that information because maybe you may be curious about what these cards mean and who this individual is. And I hope you learned something new on this episode. Also, one last thing. I did have a random thought, and maybe this is for a future episode for someone to dig into. But what is the relationship between the Blue Öyster Cult as a name and Pink Pony Club by Chappelle Roan? Because if you think about how these two have very similar alliteration, or, you know, like they focus in on a color and then an animal and then club, cult, you know? So anyway, that's it for this episode. And thank you for tuning in, and have a lovely day. Bye.